One like Layer 8, I believe StoreTech could do the same, or any IT company could do the
StoreTech
same.
did it both ways. They did it as purchase of time and hours, and then so much an hour after that, or continue the purchase of
The other,
an additional. And then they had an all-inclusive, pretty much too. And
because the other question I had is, I didn't know that it would be possible to come in and do a security audit. I can't even get access to the admin account to actually set up emails properly, so I didn't think that you would allow a company to actually scan your entire network. With that being said, our company can do the same offering. We use a different vendor than they do. They provided you their vendor information. We use a different vendor, but we can do that as well. Most of what they presented, I have presented to you as already being a concern. But I had a concern that what they presented actually missed a few things that I had identified to you, and I didn't know if that was important, if you wanted that information, like end-of-life operating systems and actual hardware. The other question I had is, on their contract, are they including the equipment, leasing on the equipment, or is there going to be purchase of new equipment? What would you like Northeastern Computer to provide for an apples-to-apples quote?
no, everything
We have
they
a,
had other than that one. I don't know if it was a switch or they call it a switch or they call it filter, but everything that they had quoted us is in the price for that monthly price.
so that means that, does that mean that you guys would not own the equipment? Like
No,
you're just leasing?
it would be ours. They just added it in so they didn't have a bunch of upgrades later on.
Okay, so all inclusive then, okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's all inclusive. Anyway, I don't wanna do a big back and forth with them right here, cause I don't think it'd be fair to them to do that, but. If you feel like you got another contract you would like to give us, or something else you would like us to look at.
Supplement, yeah.
You can give it to us within the next couple days, so that the rest of the councilman and myself would have enough time to look at it prior to the next meeting, because I want this thing put to bed and done by our next meeting.
Agreed.
And security.
Right, they haven't showed up for a presentation.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta step out for this.
Okay.
I think he. Stop getting up.
I'll be back in.
Anybody could take a 5-minute break or so to go to the bathroom?
I'm good. 5 minutes.
Alright, this is an old one. Talked about this back in 2020. We brought it up, revived it again recently. Liz Tedford, who worked on the Dasney project and also did the income survey for us for the splash pad, or excuse me, for the USDARD. To do the income study for that. She's did several of these. There is a grant round is coming back again. They did offer it this year. It's kind of like a DC grant, and basically they started out at $1 million. When they first started, they went down to $750,000. They're at
An extra piece of paper.
and it's a match grant. So if they were to give us $500,000, we'd have to put a $500,000 also into it. This is something that we're gonna end up doing whether we want it or not sooner or later. You still mix all your salt with your sand that's outside in the pit. It's only a matter of time before we end up having to put one in. So, if you guys are seriously want to look into this, so you're looking at, I'm guessing, 1.5 to 2 years to get this thing all rolled up before we can even get it going. So it'd be within 1.5 years. So if you would agree that this is something we should be working on, I'll get a hold of Liz, get all the information that she needs to apply for the grant, and we can start at least that process.
I think it's a real good idea. I think we should be moving ahead with this big time for the simple reason. If not, we might just get it thrown in our face and would get told it's gonna be done. And then you don't have time to wait for a grant or nothing else, because X number of fines are gonna be banging on top
I
of it.
guarantee we're looking at $1 million plus.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's, I mean, I've mentioned it in several meetings. I think it's something we need to get going on.
But I'd rather get in front of it as much as we can right now.
Oh, I
so
agree
that
with
we
you.
can- And she was very surprised even when I talked to her. She goes, I wasn't sure they were gonna do it again this year because it's been, what, almost 6 years, 7 years since they started this program. And most of the towns around us have already did it. Beekman just finished theirs. Of course, they had a problem up there. We're going to the water.
And is there an application deadline set up on it?
There is, so that's why I need to know whether or not you guys are good with me getting a hold of her,
Yeah.
and then we'll have a resolution written for this month to hire her to go after a grant, which is the way we started every project since I've been down here. I always try to get the grant money before we.
I'm for it. I don't
I'm
know how
for
you
it.
feel, Reg. I definitely think we gotta
Yes.
go. If we don't move, we're gonna get slapped.
The only thing is, like I say, they're gonna wanna see some engineering, okay, so I'll throw it out to like ADA and, LaBerge and probably, Barton La Judas. See who comes back with what for, they're gonna have a lot of questions, how big we want it, that's where you're gonna come in, how much, how much building do you need?
Well, wouldn't we be better off there to have Mike like look into like some of the towns that are basically our size, like Beekman Town?
Yeah.
Peru's a little bigger, but find out what they got.
Bean Town is huge. I mean, they did it over a $2 million one. Saranac, pretty close to probably what we would need. Denham.
Prue had the first one in the area that I know.
Yeah.
What about us Able? Do they got one?
I think so. I'm not.
They might be a
I
good
wouldn't
one to
wanna say
check
for
with.
Sure, but yeah. But
You know, us Able, Saranac, someone that's gonna be equal to our terms.
Now,
Yeah, more.
you're gonna need power.
Mhm.
You're gonna need power, electricity.
yes.
You're gonna need it.
Yeah, it's gonna
Because
need a
it's-
utility right away down through there, and that's what I tried to get a couple of years ago and some
Yeah.
change ago, and I know the Connors were a little skeptical about a utility power going through there, which will bring me to another old business, which I guess I could bring up about the same time, but if you guys are good with that, I wanna make some notes here on what I gotta do with this.
You can't be in.
Unless
Because
somebody wants to jump in and help.
Put up the ventilation.
You got a ventilation?
Have you ever been in here?
Oh, at night, when you're there at night, you have one.
Oh my
You don't
God.
see, you can't just say, well, I got the lower lights.
Yeah, that's
That can
not
work.
good, that's not good enough.
No, that ain't gonna work.
No, I mean, it's 2023 now. You know, it's not 1960, 50 anymore.
Mhm.
Try it, try going down there at 2 o'clock in the morning. Year after year after.
I know, LaBerge and ADA had quoted us 2 quotes on salt sheds
Somebody
already.
in that building,
Um,
they could kill us. Nobody would even know. Yeah.
this is kinda, that's what I was looking at, I don't know if that's what you're looking at, Mikey.
Yeah.
It's not excessive, but it's about the same size as Saranac and Dana.
Yeah, that looks like Shazy's.
Yeah. Blew my mind when I looked at it, cause that was not what I was expecting.
Would you think something to that?
I was used to the dome ones that the state had, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, no.
I look at that and I'm like, That looks like a freaking cattle barn. I could
Yeah.
almost do that myself. But
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Really,
Uh-huh.
really nice.
Basic, for sure.
yeah, except for the cost
The
of things.
longevity, you
Sure.
gotta think about too, of what's
Yeah.
actually in there. Of course, they come from experience, believe me.
If you look at these, Mike,
You wanna put your trust in.
basically it'll give you the dimensions of what they think you need by how many tons that you're gonna store. So what do you usually store for, or what do you usually order?
Oh, well, we get 1,000 ton of salt, that's just salt,
That's just all.
that's just salt. And we usually,
Then you plan to still,
500 tandem loads, you know, at least.
but what I'm saying is you, with this, you'd have the ability that you wouldn't have to mix it all. What I'm saying is.
Correct,
Now you're kind of stuck in
That
a
would
rock and hard
be-
place because it's out in the air. But
yes, yeah,
you could actually
yes.
keep some salt
Yeah,
in this
if you had
building, and then use
soft
your salt
winter, you
and
could
not
keep
have to
it,
throw some
use
sand
it
and
again
do all the
another
cleanup
time, but
at
now you can't.
the end.
No,
If that makes sense to you.
no, yeah, no, it does, it's priceless if we could.
So that's why I was saying that if you could give me an idea on
On the size,
how many tons of salt you would order a year.
yeah,
And I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but then I can figure out, like, you know, like they're saying, 60 by 104 or 70 by 104.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depends on how many tons you're gonna try to put in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
so, I know it's 1,000 tons, but what I need to figure out sometime is, it must be at least 14-yard tandem loads.
Once
And you may multiply that times 550 loads, you know, to try to get the mathematics.
Would the town of Schuyler Falls ever think about
Calculate.
putting in the brine system like Peru did? Or is that crazy?
Uh,
I don't know if that's been successful or not. There's been a lot of news.
You know, that's new technology up here. I
Right.
mean, we're not the state, you know, of course, we're not Town of Peru. Town of Peru, they're doing a lot of, they've got a lot of trial and error going on.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing okay, you know, but there's still a lot of awful trial and error.
I just didn't know how that
This
was
was their
going.
first year.
Right.
But can we, you know, can Schuyler Falls do it? I mean,
I'm sorry. I interrupted my.
Are they using it
Um,
exclusively, or they're?
Yeah, no, they tried it last year. They didn't do sand last year.
Oh.
They used brine. We used them once to come up and help with the salt for us. I don't think, did they use brine that day, or did they come up with, Mike just come up with salt for us on?
just
That's
salt,
what I thought. So,
just salt, but.
I don't, without doing a bunch of grants and changing all his trucks up there.
Yeah.
There'd be
You gotta have
a
trucks.
huge
Yeah.
expense.
Those
So
big tubs
That
and
was
You
stuff.
could have
something
the
that we'd
trucks,
have
but
to
you'd have
look
to take
at
the boxes off, you'd
again,
have to have different
with
boxes.
grants.
That's right.
And he would have to make the decision to
Yeah.
decide that our next trucks that we're purchasing are gonna be set up
That
for
way.
brine, not for rock salt and sand. That's the first thing he would have to decide.
But see, that's what
It's
I'm
his- Oh, lucky I was superintendent, that's his job.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
At one point, Mike, at one point, I've heard that New York DOT has a prepared plan for a salt shed that's available to a municipality. And if that is factual, it would be nice when we figure out the sizing that we could just simply get one, get a plan, and then we could save money on it. Maybe save money on part of the engineering
You're
part
gonna-
of it.
You're still gonna need somebody to stamp yours.
Oh, of
or you're
course,
gonna have to
but I
pay,
just,
or you're gonna have to pay for somebody else's plans, okay? That's why, like I said, when I looked at this one, this is some that they've already did.
Uh-huh.
These are
These guys.
This is from Barton and
Their
LaJudas
size.
when I talked to them.
Oh,
But I
I'm
wanna
sure.
get one from
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of
ADEA,
self-explanatory.
cause they actually gave me
But I don't want to sound
these,
like an expert.
one back in January 20 when I first brought this up.
Yeah.
And then, so did Alberta.
okay.
But it's
Okay.
been, they're old, you know what I mean? They're
Sure.
too old to be used today. So, this one goes back to March when we were talking about it of last year, so this one's
Yeah.
even a year old now. So I wanna make sure that, they already have them, you see what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, they can pull, and it's basically, that's what I was asking Mike, you gotta know
Sized up.
the size, and that's gonna depend on how much he wants to put away for the winter.
Certain.
Once he figures that out, I can tell them, and then they can give us a pretty set, quick set.
Just trying so hard.
Because I know Barton.
Oh, great.
Kevin, would you have a problem with the sand freezing though if you didn't mix it prior to?
No, I don't know if he would mix it all or have to mix it all. I wouldn't mix it all, but I'm
I
not
think
the
if
highway
it's inside your
superintendent,
building,
that's
you
up to
wouldn't have
him.
to worry
I didn't
about
hear
it.
the question.
No, he was worried about whether the sand would freeze up if you didn't have salt in some of the sand.
Well, I think from my experience, the sand that went in it would be mixed.
And just keep salt extra.
That's
Keep
what I
keep
was-
salt extra
On the other end of the
at the
building.
entrance
Yeah,
on the
'cause
right
we had a
hand
couple
side.
times last year
You
where
know what
they
I mean?
froze up and then
Yeah.
there wasn't enough salt in the sand
Or
to
if you
take
needed
care
to add
of
a
the
little
rocks.
bit more because of the roads, then you'd have the salt.
Oh,
We went
my
to the
God,
town of-
that'd be-
Yeah.
Town of Peru
That'd be
and
worth every
Mike was
penny.
really good about sending a whole load of just salt up and then that melted that right out. But, yeah, and on the other hand of that, you might not have to use so much sand, is what I'm saying. You might not.
Correct.
need to, as long as we got a place that we can store salt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not in the weather.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. You know,
We can work good with that.
I just
All
have to
right.
do some bigger.
So I'll contact those three, and like I said, you kind of give me an idea on what size you think you like,
Yeah.
or at least some tonnage. How much sand you're gonna mix, salt and sand, how much salt you're gonna leave, and then I can work with these guys to figure out how big a one they really need to be. Alright. This was when we discussed the turnaround at the end of Rixon Ave, okay? So, I did some digging, everybody did a little digging down here. These, Gary thinks that we still own, Mike, you can look at mine with me. Gary seems to think we own about 25 feet at the end there still.
That works
So
highlighted?
that yellow,
Mm-hmm.
okay? According to the survey, excuse me, the deed that I sent over to, Mr. McCormick to look at, and here's a copy of it here, and, what we gave up, because back when, George was highway superintendent, he gave up a section of the, right of way that we had in the back, and
Gave it up to who?
then I went back to the landowners.
I would assume it would be,
They abandoned it and they gave it back. I wouldn't have suggested doing that, but it's a little past my time to go back in there. So now we're looking at a couple different ways.
Last time I looked on the county GIS map, it went back to the EAS,
Yeah.
both pieces,
Huh?
both parcels, the
going back
25 feet
to
on both sides.
earthquake.
Yeah, that's what Gary pulled up too, but the problem is that our deed description, the deed, as it's read by our attorney,
That was back in 95.
says you only go back 600 feet, period, instead of the 750 that it used to be, because of that abandonment. And he reads them better than I do. But basically what happened, I'll do the quick orientation here. I Probably should have made these for you too. But this is Rickson, I'll go right over to you and the guys in a minute. So
We talked the other day
this
about
is
it,
Rickson
sure.
Ave, okay?
Yeah.
This is the old 150 foot by 50 foot
Yeah.
hammerhead.
Mhm.
And when that was originally sold back in, the Rickson Ave development was,
65.
no, 57.
57. even further.
1957.
Okay. Yeah.
It's right here. So this was when the development was approved by the town. And what they were originally had was a hammerhead built in down here. Plus, that road could be extended if they ever went further
Yeah.
with the development back there, which really never happened. But this is what, from what I understand, this section here on the top is what was given back. So right here, if you're looking Mason Street right here, and then you go into Rickson Ave,
Yeah.
all right? Right here is where that old hammerhead used to be.
Oh, well,
And they used to be able to back in there and turn around and come back out the other side.
Yeah.
But this was all abandoned under George when he was the highway superintendent. So that is no longer ours. Now, according to the assessor, he is showing on the map about 25 feet, about half of this left. I don't know if you could back a truck up in that.
No way.
You know
No
what I'm saying?
No way. Could, I mean,
So-
just figure out your pickup, 25 feet. I mean, your pickup
Right.
was your plow.
No, it's 25 feet wide, but we would have to go back, say 150 feet
Oh,
or
okay.
75, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even 25 feet, when you got your wing on and everything else,
No,
there's no way that you're gonna stay on
trucks are at least
the
30 foot long
Yeah,
from, from the front peak of the
but it's the
of the
width,
plow.
the width is 25 feet.
Right.
No
You know what I
way.
mean?
No way.
So we give you like a 25 by 50, which is like I was telling him, I said, that's never gonna work. So what I was looking at is we got a couple of an easements for the Rickson Ave water, and actually Mr. McCormick said the same thing. If we're gonna do an easement, which we would have to try to do in an easement back there, right? To fix this problem, get the land back.
Yep.
Whether Bonnie would do it or whether Earth Waste would. You know what I mean?
Could I make a statement about this? If that property was abandoned, which according to the deed it was, a qualified abandonment, we're gonna have to rededicate that property to turn it back into town highway. I mean, it's a procedure. I mean, let's take a look at Pine Tree Drive. There's an example that comes up with property that the town highway superintendent at the time
Hey.
made that move of abandoning something. Now it's gonna be a matter of the town board to rededicate that property back again. And certainly, we shouldn't be going forward putting a water main in along that property because it's abandoned at this point. So it seems like there's a lot of technical things that we're gonna run into here.
Well, let me stop you right there because the water line isn't going anywhere near where
hold on,
our road
back.
doesn't own.
Well, the water line
Okay.
is proposed to be going in along that section.
It is, but it's gonna be right here on
It'll be
Bonnie's
stopped
section,
before.
which is gonna be in an easement, okay? This other one would be up here on the Latour's. So you can't mix apples to oranges here. Now,
No, that's the point.
well,
That's the point
it
I'm
was
trying to make.
because you're saying that we don't own the road where we're putting the water line.
Can I get a
Not
map or
true.
two also, or?
Yep. That one, no, not that one.
Can't
This
give it
one
to
here.
No, cause that's LaBerge's engineering maps. I'm not giving those
This is
out.
Mason Street.
These aren't even,
I'll request a
See-
FOIL request for it because I don't see why we can't see what you guys are up to.
Mason Street.
It seems to me, this land, he said went
Alright,
back to the
so
owner.
you
How
can
can you?
talk after.
Wait a
Right
minute,
now,
now let me
you-
tell you
you're not-
something.
don't
This-
tell me,
Yes,
I
I am gonna
will
tell you
have
something.
you
This
removed.
man spoke,
okay?
this man spoke, everybody else gets a chance to
But
speak, but me.
No, that
Oh
is
yes,
not
that's
true.
just the way it
They were
is.
very respectful
No.
when they spoke. When you're speaking, you're yelling at me. and I'm
Because
not
you
yelling at
upset
you.
me every time you open your mouth.
No. Well, then you, again, don't have to listen.
No, I
But you
guess
will
not. I'm
listen
listening
to this.
quite well tonight, quite well.
Through here for the garage.
just check that.
I'm the only
That's all I
one
ask.
here that's not allowed to speak when they have something to say.
I'm not gonna continue back and forth, I'll just have you leave.
Go ahead, call the police, you know the number, you've done it before.
No, I have
No,
never.
no, you weren't behind that, I know that.
No. I
Okay,
have
guys,
never done.
let's get the meeting done. Hey, we've got, let's get some things finalized here.
So,
I just.
Again-
The other way.
the proposed water line is gonna need a right of way on each end of the road for that loop. So what Mr. McCormick said was that if you're gonna do that right of way, you might wanna use that for the hammerhead. And that way you don't even have to get back into that. That-
Back deeper where you, okay.
Yeah, clean it out or do anything else. Of course, this is a property owner.
Now, are they, yeah, that's the next thing, we're gonna have to get it clarified through them.
Yeah, which we would anyways, we would have to get this clarified before we could even do this loop. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't that the first thing we gotta do is give them a letter and you can sign
That's-
from them?
yeah.
Before we do anything?
Yeah.
That's what I would.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't a water line discussion topic. This was just showing us
Okay.
that we could do two things at the same time. We could actually make this utility right away,
Gotcha.
right away to back the truck up into
We get it.
and kill two birds with one stone, pretty much. You know
6,
what I'm
8,
saying?
10 feet.
So if that makes sense to you guys, that's what I would look at doing, if we're gonna do that. Otherwise, yes, we have to try to get this
Kev, the other
back in
thing
the
is-
road.
If we have to do that right away, what happens if there is contamination down there from earth waste? We stick the shovel in the ground and we start to do the clearing and it's contaminated. Are we all of a sudden gonna be responsible for having to dig that all up?
No,
And,
you would be responsible for whatever dirt you dig up.
right, that's what I'm saying. What happens if we go in there and we gotta clear whatever X number of feet? So we go in there and we start cutting and start clearing. Well, then some organization comes in and says, hey, we believe that's contaminated waste. They come in and they check it and it is contaminated waste. Now we're gonna be responsible as the town to have that taken care of.
I agree with Mr. Bruno on this. And there was a rationale for Mr. Seymour to abandon that property. And I believe that probably, Vern, is probably the reason it was done. Because it all happened around the time of the contamination when it was brought forth
Right, back when it was
on the
Rick's, yeah.
prior Rickson-owned
Right.
property, when they had that mess over there, and Mr. Seymour went forth as his
Right.
authority,
I agree
would
with you on that,
dictate
yes.
and do that. And
Yeah,
he did do
but-
that.
But the change was in the 70s when that was actually done.
Right.
In the original,
I mean, good.
and the original project goes back to, like I said, the 1950s. But,
Why he abandoned it,
yeah, I don't know. Because it makes no sense to back a truck, drive a truck all the way in there, back all the way
Back
out,
it all the
then
way.
back
It's
all
very
the way in,
unsafe.
Then drive
I
it.
agree with you there too. It's very unsafe. I mean,
believe you.
you back over
We
somebody
own
or
the
back over
property,
something,
right?
we're,
We own six, the best that I can get from Mr. McCormick
Do a
right
lot
now
of backing up and it's.
is, we own 600 feet of that road.
So why do we have to do anything other than turn around in there, make it so we can turn around?
yeah, just make a turnaround.
To make a turnaround, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, but why do you
If
have to reclaim it and all that stuff?
Well, you wouldn't unless you got in the back properties, and then you would have to reclaim.
Who owns
If the property owner would let you do it, we would have to reclaim some of that area in the back to make that
It'd be
hammerhead.
earth-based there.
So that's what I'm
think
saying,
we have to
if we're gonna do a right-of-way right here, utility right-of-way through a property owner as it is, which is Bonnie's property, then it would only make sense to use that to back up and then turn around, drive right back out the other way.
Oh, so we don't own a straight shot back there, we gotta go through someone else's property.
We own a straight shot to the end of the road, but we don't own any property on either side of the road other than our right-of-way at 50 feet.
Right.
So,
And then it got abandoned.
But if it's abandoned, it still belongs to the town, doesn't it?
No, it
now,
goes back
cause
to
it goes, the deed goes back to the landowner.
Landowner.
which was,
Landowner.
which was
It's the
Phil
right of
Myers.
way,
I got you.
the right of way stays there, like you can walk on it as a right of way.
Right.
Even after it's abandoned. But that doesn't mean, matter of fact, you're saying you're not going to maintain it at that point. So usually the land on either side of the right of way goes back to whomever that is.
What I'm afraid of.
Unless the homeowner or the landowner owns both sides, and they can
It's been
get both
abandoned.
sides of the right of way.
And you're-
I do believe, Kevin, now, anything to do with the town highway, we need permission from the county highway superintendent to do anything at this point. I'm pretty sure if you take a look at highway law, you'll find that.
It's not good.
We need to have the approval of the county to do anything to do with the town highway. And I'm pretty sure, Kevin, that's correct.
Depends on what you're doing. And sometimes they get involved, sometimes they don't get involved, because there's been instances where I've contacted them
Oh,
and
so-
they have not.
Have them write it off then,
But
right?
like I said, in this case, we're not looking to make a road. We're looking to make pulling.
Sure. Turnaround
Turn
for
around.
safety. I certainly
We don't have to
understand it.
clear it to make it legalized for
But,
the plow
No.
or the public or anything
yeah,
else.
no, it wouldn't be for the public. It would only be for,
The town trucks
town
that do their
trucks.
turnaround.
so. Like I said, it made sense. Mr. McCormick was one that said, hey, if you're gonna do that anyways, it would only make sense to use that utility right away as your turnaround. If it works for you.
Yeah, and then you'd have to get it changed back to the town at the
No,
same time.
we don't have to change anything because that is going to be a right of way for the water line. If we do
We're not
that.
gonna use what you're thinking, Mike, at the end. They're gonna go where the easement's gonna be for the water line.
Yeah,
So you're not gonna be having to do what you were thinking all the way to the end.
But that's at the end. Vernon.
Yeah, on the end one way, but we don't have to go to the, north side of it, right? You're only gonna work off the south side of it? Just the one property?
for the water line.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be on each end of the road for the
Right,
loop, but
right.
yeah, it's all gonna be on the south side.
So we don't have to worry about that
That,
junction on the left.
no, I was just showing you in the
Right,
old
okay. That's what I was
map,
saying.
that was the original, plan when they built Richardson Ave.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, okay, I understand.
I certainly don't want to complicate this, Kevin, at all. I
Right.
really don't, okay? However, when everything is tied together with this turnaround and proposed water line. Now, what the problem is that property isn't even in the Morrisonville Water District. And I feel, I'm just one person, I feel that the people in the Morrisonville Water District should give a green light if we're gonna expand that water line onto this private property. I mean, here we're talking about 304 people in the Morrisonville Water District. And all of a sudden, we've got a plan and we're linking it on property that isn't in that district. So this whole thing makes very little sense to me because it's too complicated. The plan, when the Fuller development went in, Mr. Fuller, at his expense, put that water main extension in, up by Leander Lane and up in there and further up. That was his expense. He did all the work, he paid for all that material,
We did,
and let me finish, okay?
you're wrong.
So could I please
Yeah, go
finish?
ahead.
Now all of a sudden my point is, all of a sudden we're using taxpayers' money. It's ARPA funding, but it's ours. And we're spending probably up to around 100 grand to all of a sudden tie in to a 6-inch water main, and we're utilizing now an 8-inch water main. So now we're robbing water from Leander Lane, part of Hilltop Estates, and I think that should be looked at. And I think the people who own the water district, the 304 of them, they should give approval for this first. We shouldn't be just rushing to spend the ARPA money. ARPA has changed. We have until the end of '24 to come up with a project for ARPA. And as long as the work is done until the end of '26, we can fall under the ARPA guideline. This right here deserves to be looked at properly. The people in the Morrisonville Water District deserve a chance to take a look at this and see if they want their district expanded. And what puzzles me is that I met with New York Rural Water. And that technician, I spent a day with him up there, and Kevin, you know I was there. He was just thinking, why not just put a 2-inch water main, push it under the highway, and connect those mobile homes that are down there. But then all of a sudden that went on, and then the next thing I know, there's a huge map with private property all laid out, proposing an 8-inch water main, along with, now instead of having 1 hydrant, there was 3. Well, the hydrants are 10 to 12,000
So-
a piece. Let me finish.
Wait a minute, no.
Be fair, Kevin,
I
let
will,
me talk.
but let me say this,
I
okay?
spent a lot of time on this project. on the
Yeah,
water.
and we've been over and covered this.
Right, and I
covered it
have the
covered it.
right to voice my
And
opinion on it,
We
Kevin.
have, what you did, but the board decided to move forward with that loop system. We just went through and got all the engineering done for it. We just went to the county and had the county approve it all.
Right, we had
if
to
we go-
hire an engineer to come from Albany up here to a county meeting. Okay, and we used ARPA money to pay him. Okay? All of a sudden, we're sitting here, we're talking about spending 100,000 on this project. Hey, if you guys want to do it, go ahead. You guys want to go for it? Do it. I'm opposed to it
You've
because
been
the
opposed to
people in the Morrisonville Water District deserve to know what's going on with their water.
Reggie, did they do that with Fuller's? Was it people from the water included in that decision at that time?
You mean, this is going back, what, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago
No.
or more?
I was here.
It was nowhere near that long ago. And they decided to go ahead with Fuller's, and Fuller was gonna do the same thing.
So did they have a choice, Kevin, do you think? Or-
So, you gonna listen to me for a minute now? The Fuller's, my understanding of it all, was Fuller said that they would put the water line in for free as long as we paid, district paid for the materials, okay? So they bought the pipe, the district did, and they put it in for free. To my knowledge, I was talking to your mother the other day. I wanted to know whether that was ever looped at the end of Leander. Because I believe that he didn't have permission at the time from the town. And your father had to bring that all the way across from 22B from Joyce to Leander. Because he simply wanted to come off of a couple hundred feet up the road and tie in that way. But they didn't allow Fuller's to do it after. The issue that we ran into then that I had to fix when I first come in here was we had to include Fuller's development into the Morrisville Water District because they weren't in the district.
And when did
So-
they get hooked up, right?
So, to answer most of your questions, yes, we will have to have outer district user agreements with all those people up there, which I've covered with you multiple times. And then they will also sign an agreement that they will then become part of the Morrisville Water District at the end of the project when we can finish the main part of the Morrisville rebuild.
What if they don't? What if they don't want it?
Then it's done.
You put the water in for nothing.
Well, no, this is prior to
They would have
a
to
shovel
prove it.
going in the ground.
Those people, so that's really the first thing we should do is,
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying, and as I explained to Mr. Facto, is that you can't go to somebody and say, on a napkin, this is what we wanna do, sign off on this now.
we need to know how much the cost is.
Exactly, you had to, whether you likes it or not, that's the cost of doing business. You have to have the engineering, and you
Hang on
have
a
to have
second.
all the
I
work
don't
done
think,
before
Hey,
you can go up
hang
there
on.
and introduce it.
I shouldn't be criticized for all the effort that I put into
I'm not
this
criticizing.
project.
I'm not either.
No, you're the one, not you. I didn't say anything about you. I shouldn't be criticized for the work I put into this.
No, you shouldn't.
At all.
Nobody should.
No,
So that's what
and
I'm
here
saying.
we are proposing going from a 6-inch main up there. All of a sudden, we're running down Rixon Avenue to an 8-inch main. Well, what's it gonna do to the other people?
Nothing.
Well, are you an engineer? Do you know that?
There is nothing that's gonna happen to the rest of that line. All you do, it's no different than expanding any other main on any other road. You can go to the town of Plattsburgh that does expansions every year.
So we're going from
On
a
the
6 to an 8. It's a lot more expensive. Do we need an 8-inch main? Do we need an
You can
8-inch
change
main?
it to a
on
6
Rixon
on the
Avenue?
engineering schedule before we go out to bid. 6 is
But it
the
says 8
minimum.
now.
6 is the minimum that you can, they recommend.
The plan
At least
called,
at
Kevin, the
8.
plan called for an 8.
It does,
Right.
because they recommend an 8-inch for any hydrants that you put on. But the minimum standard that you can put on is a 6-inch.
But
They
why
still have
did we,
hydrant.
Kevin, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Why did we go from needing one hydrant at the end of Rixon Avenue, and there already is a hydrant right here on Mason Street, up there, near there. Why did we go from one hydrant to 3 hydrants?
Because
They're 12 grand apiece.
the standard is every 600 feet on a road. You're gonna need
So-
one at the end for sanitary reasons, because you need to flush the system.
Right, but why the other 2, Kevin? Why are we doing that?
Because of the standard.
The distance.
They figured.
Right,
the
but why
distance.
are we doing this on private property? Why are we doing this?
It's not on, it's on Rixon Ave.
No, why are we paying for a water main on Trombley Way? Why are we doing that? They have a connection right here on Mason Street. All they have to do, and I hope they do it, connect right on in front of Trombley Way. There's a water line right there for them. And they can put their own water system in, Kevin. Why are we spending ARPA money on this project?
So-
I mean, if you could tell me why, Kevin.
Because
please.
I can't understand your ideology. Because every house on every road is a private property that we bring water to in the Morrisville Water District. Every house that we bring water to is a private property,
Prior to
Period.
doing this, Kevin,
period.
shouldn't we have, could you agree with me on this? Prior to even doing this, I mean, I know they've already drawn the plans. You and I went to a county meeting. Mr. LaBerge was there that day. Why did that happen prior to letting the people who own the water district know? Why is this happening?
If people don't know about this, there's a problem, because it's been talked about and discussed for almost a year and a half. So I don't know why you're saying that nobody knows about it. Secondly, like I said, and like you just criticized me about, when I explained to you, I can't get the written paperwork done without having the plan and the engineering, okay? And that means it's gotta be an approved plan, all right?
But
So
just to
right here,
complicate it.
this right here, which you still are, to this day.
Oh, I
call
can understand it. It's
private
real clear to
property,
me.
okay?
It's private property.
It
It
is
is.
all gonna be part of the Morrisville Water District. That means that it's all gonna be an easement to the Morrisville Water District. Just like going through the front of any of these lawns down here.
Okay, okay.
They still have to
So,
have an easement to
We're
go
getting
through
an
that.
easement. for a private developer. Who's paying for that? Who is paying the cost for getting this easement? Who's paying that? There's a bill for everything.
There's a bill for everything.
Who's paying that?
If the board wants them to pay for it, that's something that the board can ask for either one of these two.
Well, that's news to
This
me. I
one
didn't know
he's
that
paying
before. How do you feel? Do you think ARPA should pay that?
No, actually, when I talked to them, I said I think that the easement should all be paid by them.
Okay, let me ask you another question. This engineering map that was done, who do you think should pay for that engineering map on private property? Who do you think should be responsible?
That has to be paid for by us. That way, when they put it in, they're gonna do it to the standards that we
Say,
need.
as you know, I voted no on that payment. Fine, so be it. That
There's no
was
other
a
way you can
payment,
do
that was a
that.
payment,
Because
that was a
if you
payment
were
made
to
on private
have them
property.
engineer the system, then they'd be
That-
telling the town
That
the way
payment,
they
that
go.
payment shouldn't have been made.
How much was that payment?
3,500.
Um,
Were you here that night?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I looked at it as promoting growth and getting more houses and more tax base. And that part of it, I thought the 3,500, you need to have that to be able to go put something out to bid to see how much the project costs before we can present it to those people.
Before,
to
yeah,
see
you
if they
can't bring
want
it to somebody without.
But it's not going out for bid, Mike. It's not going out for bid.
Terribly
We have-
well off the bid.
Okay, we need to.
The labor isn't
We
going out
should,
for bid.
well, then we should do it, we should put it out and see how much we're saving by having.
We did that.
Do
We
it.
did
He,
that.
we already did that.
Okay.
He asked for a cost analysis, which was already
Oh, I
done.
did see
It's
that.
gonna save, back then, it's a couple months sale now.
Yeah, no,
Back
we
then,
we never did that. We never put that out for bid for a contractor to go in there and give us a bid on that work.
We did a cost
It
analysis.
was done
You
by
did a
the
cost
engineer.
analysis on the material at that time, which has probably changed, by the
No.
way.
No,
It changes how often.
no, we
Yeah.
did a cost analysis on material only, and then what it would cost with labor and
Okay,
material.
who were the three contractors that gave us that proposal?
It
Reverse
was
it.
done.
No,
by the
no, a
engineer.
contractor, not an engineer, a contractor. Who?
Reggie, you don't even make any sense. How you gonna put
It
out?
makes all kinds of
It
sense.
does not make any
Macy
sense.
Lane is going in. We had a bid in the
Whoa.
paper for a contractor.
You don't want?
They need to be paid scale pay.
Yep.
But
everything-
we had to have the specs to go by before we put it out for bid. Right? And I got a question too. I don't remember if, I would like to be consistent if we're going forward, to look at if the Fuller project was paid for, the equipment was, the piping and so forth was paid, who paid for it, you know? So we go forward, we compare apples to apples and set precedents, and if we could look into that and find out who would tell us that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I'm going by the deputy supervisor.
Who's
And
that? Oh, okay.
And that's what he said.
Well,
He goes, that's exactly the way it went.
I know.
And I know that when I took over down here, that was the first thing that I spoke to Rick about, and that we,
I'm gonna look
I
into that,
fixed.
just to make sure.
because we didn't have them into the Marshall Water District because they weren't in the boundary lines.
Yeah,
And we
same as what
didn't,
we're
we
doing now.
didn't, we didn't have out-of-district user agreements. So that's where the out-of-district user agreements come in before we put the shovel on the ground.
Right.
So that way it's legal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wanted to take a little more step further, saying that if we're gonna do this and invest that money in there, then they should become part of the Marshall Water District.
And they have to sign off on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ARPA money, did we ever get, Reggie's questioned, if we should use that. I mean, we've already done it on Macy Lane already, but, is there should we check with, or have we checked with our lawyer to see if that's together with ARPA to make sure that we can spend that on that water, or do we have to?
No,
So that
as
was
long as
something
you
else.
assume the $10 million loss, you can pretty much use that ARPA money on anything that the town has for business. But it was originally proposed for water lines, sanitary lines, high-speed internet, or our internet to upgrade it for.
The ARPA money was?
Yeah. But once you assumed that $10 million loss, they opened it up for a lot of things. We also, if you remember, hired LaVerge to oversee our ARPA spending to make sure that it was done under the guidance of ARPA. So,
Just to clarify, and that's a pretty important thing, Kevin, with ARPA, spending of ARPA. Of course, we're all set on Macy Lane. When Macy Lane first that night was brought up, it was like somebody said 160,000. You know, at that point, things kept raising in price, right? And then all of a sudden we had a vote and we approved Macy Lane as a board. It was a 5-0 vote, I believe it was, I'm sure it was. Now all of a sudden, Macy Lane has went up to, the last idea was 363,000, but we're gonna know next week because we got bids coming in. But my whole point on this sharing with a private developer, it's a good idea. However, if we go forth with this, if the people in the Morrisonville Water District first approve it, they're the ones, I mean, they've gotta want this to happen. If it goes forth, and if this deal, somehow this board does barter 100 grand with a private developer, I certainly have nothing against the guy. I don't blame him for wanting this, why not? Has certain guidelines. After looking at Macy Lane and the bidding procedure on Macy Lane, there's like over 100 pages of documents for Macy Lane for someone to bid. It talks about the Davis-Bacon Act in there, scale pay, it goes in detail. So, Kevin, my point, with all respect, for all the work you and I have done on this, we have, is that Mr. Trombley is gonna have to draft some kind of an agreement with the town where his employees as well are gonna have to be paid scale. It's the same thing, it applies to, what applies to this Trombley subdivision, Rickson Avenue project, is the same thing as Macy Lane. That's my only point, Kevin, in making on this. You know, we're looking at spending 100 grand, in essence. By the time this gets going, I doubt there'll be a shovel in the ground this year on Rickson Avenue, because there's too many things. There's the qualified abandonment. We've got to deal with that head on. We've got to ask the people on Rickson Avenue, do they want water? First of all, one of them